Block 2. The Blue Berets of the Soviet Army. Systems, a boy, and remaining human.
In the previous part, I said that before the facts comes the person. That is why I'm not going to the white Toyota just yet. First, I need to say a little about how a person learns to remain himself inside systems. I grew up at a time when everything was not as soft and carefully explained as it is today. At school, there were plenty of tests of strength between boys. Sometimes with words, sometimes with a look, sometimes physically as well. I am not saying this to make violence look beautiful. It was not beautiful, but it was part of that time. If you were seen as weak, you were tested. If you stayed quiet for too long, someone might decide that they could simply walk all over you. And sometimes you had to defend your boundaries not because you wanted a fight, but because otherwise someone else would write your place in the world for you. One simple understanding stayed with me from that time. A person does not have to go looking for trouble, but a person has to know where his boundary is. Later came an even bigger system, the Soviet Army. Before my military service, I went through about 6 months of military vehicle training. Engines, maintenance, military machinery, heavy vehicles, technical responsibility. It was a very practical school. You could not glance at a picture for a moment and suddenly call yourself an expert. You had to understand how a machine worked, how to keep it running, how to notice a fault, how to take responsibility. In field conditions, a repair truck does not always come to rescue you. Every crew has to understand that if something happens, the first solution may have to be found right there on the spot. You have the machine, you have the men, you have the situation. And danger is all around you. Beautiful theory does not help much then. What matters is whether you genuinely understand what is broken and what can be done about it. As a young professional, I obtained Category B and C driving licenses. To me, they were not just pieces of paper in my pocket. They meant responsibility. A machine does not ask whether you are in a bad mood. The road does not ask whether you are young. Responsibility does not ask whether you are ready for it. The official picture of the Soviet Army was, of course, more beautiful. Before my service, I even watched the program I Served the Soviet Union to prepare myself mentally for compulsory military service. But real life was not always the same as the picture on television. In the highly developed Soviet Army, equipment was also dropped by parachute. On paper and in propaganda, everything was supposed to keep moving afterwards. In real life, what came down often had a rather different relationship with continuing to move. That taught me one thing: the official picture and the actual condition can belong to two completely different worlds. Then the service itself began. 2 years inside a system you did not enter by free choice, but because you were put there. During that service, I once ended up on an officer's training flight. This was not an ordinary conscript experience. Very few conscripts ever had such an opportunity. Perhaps an old and friendly praporshchik had something to do with it. Judging by his shoulder boards, he was not the highest-ranking man there, but in real life, his experience carried more weight among senior officers than the shiny rank insignia of some young lieutenant fresh out of military school. He was one of those people who showed me that even inside a system, a person can remain human. There were officers on that flight, and the helicopter was flown by an old pilot with experience from the war in Afghanistan. He felt very much at home in the air. You could perhaps even say a little too happily at home. When the low-level flying, sharp turns, and combat-style dives began, I have to admit that I no longer had much time to analyze grand military strategy. My main mission was to keep the morning menu inside the security zone. It stayed in, but it made its presence known. I glanced at the colonel, and it seemed that his face was no longer quite the face of a man standing on a parade ground either. His hands were gripping the seat, his straps were fastened, but a strap cannot hold a man's insides in place. The pilot, meanwhile, looked perfectly pleased with himself in the cockpit. For him, it was probably work and pleasure at the same time. For me, it was another reminder that everything may look under control on paper, while in real life, control can be a very thin thing indeed. Those who know that era will also know the word dedovshchina. It was a world of its own, the power of older servicemen over younger ones, unwritten rules, humiliation, pressure, ordeals that the official story often remains silent about. For a young man, it was a serious test. not only physically, but inside. Do you remain human when the system is trying to break you? Do you become the same as those before you when you are finally given a little power yourself? Do you start playing along because it is easier that way? Or do you hold on to something inside yourself that no order can take away? I do not want to make myself into a hero here. I was not some film character who always did the right thing while victory music played in the background. There are moments in life when a person is simply trying not to break. But systems like that taught me something that matters in the story I am telling today. When the official world tells one story while real life underneath it is something else, a person has to learn to tell the difference. The paper may say, everything is fine, but the person knows it is not. The rule may say, this is how it must be, but conscience asks, is it right? Later, I saw something similar in a completely different form. Not in uniform, not in barracks, through shouting and orders, but in letters, decisions, insurance responses, and official language. It was a softer form, a more polite form, an English language form, but the feeling was familiar. When a system tries to rewrite your story into its own language, you need to know very clearly who you are. Otherwise, you end up on paper in somebody else's words. This block was not yet about Zego. It was about how a person learns to remain human inside systems. In the next part, I will talk about 3 moments when my life flashed before my eyes. They were moments when the line between life and no life came so close that afterwards, a person cannot quite continue in the same way.